Good evening. I will call the meeting to order.
I don't want it. Now it's shutting down.
Thank you.
We encourage everyone to attend and participate in city council meetings. This is part of how democracy works at the local level. Welcome to Nixa City Hall. This video is going to provide you with an overview of how the city of Nixa conducts city council meetings. We encourage everyone to attend and participate in city council meetings. This is part of how democracy works at the local level, listening to the perspectives of subject matter experts, city residents, and other community members helps our elected leaders make more informed decisions. Before we start the meeting, let's review some of council's rules of order. These rules help us make sure our meetings are orderly and efficient while protecting the ability of everyone to have an opportunity to speak. Please be respectful of the person speaking and hold your own comments until it is your turn to speak. Presenters are invited by the council to provide information during the meeting to the council. These are informational presentations only, and nothing will be voted on at the time of the presentation. Presenters are not time limited. There are 2 times when all other visitors will be able to speak to council. The first is during the visitors section of the agenda, and the second is during any public hearing regarding an agenda item. During the visitors section, anyone may speak to council about any topic, whereas the public hearings regarding specific agenda items allow you to make comments for council to consider before they make a decision on that topic. Whether you wish to speak during any public hearing or the visitors section, the following rules of order will apply. 1. Only one person should speak at a time. Be respectful of the person speaking and wait to speak until it is your turn. 2. Anyone speaking must do so from the podium and speak into the microphone. 3. You must first state your name and provide your address in writing to the city clerk before beginning your comments. 4. All speakers will be given 5 minutes to make their comments to the council. The mayor or council may have additional questions for speakers after this 5-minute period. 5. All comments should be addressed to the mayor and council. 6. If you have questions about existing city processes, programs, or policies, or if you need assistance from staff on any issue, please contact City Hall during normal business hours and we'll be happy to assist you or answer any questions you may have at that time. The public hearing is designed to provide the public an opportunity to provide testimony and information to the mayor and council regarding the decisions they may be considering. Keep in mind this meeting will be recorded and live streamed with video and audio. Therefore, all comments relevant to this meeting must be spoken into a microphone, otherwise video viewers will not be able to hear you. In the case of a closed session or technical difficulties, some meetings or portions of meetings may not actually be recorded or streamed. The use of cell phones during council meetings is discouraged, so please silence all devices now. Thank you for watching, and thank you for engaging with the City of Nixa. The meeting will begin shortly. Welcome to Nixa City Hall. This video is going to...
Kelly Morris.
Here.
Matt Ogden.
Here.
Sean Lucas.
Here.
Aaron Peterson.
Here.
Darlene Graham.
Here.
Zern Vess.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent agenda? No changes. I will accept a motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Lucas, second by Mr. Peterson. Roll call, please.
Matt Ogden.
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Zern Vess.
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
All right, we will start with service awards. First one tonight is Will Leniger with the Street Department, 15 years.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Will's not able to be here tonight, but I would like to say a few things about him. Will started with the city of Nixa as a building and grounds person. He currently is a utility worker, which is one of our employees that does anything from rescuing cats from a drain to plowing snow to doing asphalt and concrete work. Will is a very modest person. Will is one of those people that never complains, never says a cross word to anyone or about anyone. He's one that volunteers for overtime on a regular basis. He's also one that volunteers in the community for some of the things like search and rescues and things like that. So we're very blessed to have Will, and so is the community. So thank you.
Thank you. If you don't know Will, he is the Swiss Army knife of Nixa. He literally does everything. All right, next up is Johnny Neal, 5 years with the electric department.
Mayor, Council, Johnny could not be with us today. Actually, he's headed toward Florida, so on mutual aid. Johnny started with us in the tree department. While he was there for 2 years, he got his arborist license. Open, he came up in an apprenticeship program. He came over there, so he's in his 3rd year as apprenticeship, doing excellent. He's going to make us a fine lineman once he graduates. Can't say nothing bad about Johnny. He helps everybody. He still has his arborist license and helps our tree trimmer, Tim, whenever he's gone, to answer any customers' questions. We're blessed to have him, and he's going to be a good asset for us on the city and the electric department. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, and I know he is here, Mr. Scott Godby, 5 years with Planning and Development.
Mayor and Council, I'm pleased to say that Scott Godby joined us 5 years ago as a planner. He came from OTO, where he was an intern, and since he joined us 5 years ago, he has grown, and last November, he became the Director of Planning and Development. We've seen a lot of growth in Scott, and he's doing a phenomenal job. A little bit of his background: he was born in the North Pole, Alaska, so we have our very own elf.
Very
He
tall
likes
elf.
to tinker with cars, so that kind of goes along with the elf thing. And I've named him my best friend. So I don't think he likes it a whole lot, but he puts up with me. But I'm very pleased to have him. He's a great asset. You've seen the growth he's doing. He's doing great things for Nixa. So I'm glad to have him in the department.
All right, Buddy the elf, let's get a picture. Very tall elf. All right, we have one more award. Mr. Joe Gallant has served 19 years as a commissioner with Planning and Zoning. I actually even had the opportunity to serve with him for a couple years. Anyone who dedicates that many years as a volunteer for the city has definitely put in their time. And I didn't know who else wanted to. I believe that falls on Mr. Godby's shoulders.
Joe Golan is definitely considered the wild card of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We never really know what what questions he's gonna ask or much of anything, except he's dedicated, he shows up, and that's truly admirable in a volunteer position, especially for 19 years. So it says a lot about his character. Joe and I, for the last 5 years, have had many debates during the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, and after the meetings, he'll come up, shake my hand, and talk about going on a cruise or something. You know, he's he drops it as soon as he's done with it. So I truly appreciate Joe Gallant. He's done great things. His dedication to the citizens of Nixa for the past 19 years is great. So I'm sad to see him go, but also happy to replace him.
Definitely a hard one to replace, that's for sure. Okay, now we will move on to our visitor section.
Ron Sanders.
Good evening. My name is Ron Sanders. Tonight we're going to be talking about something offensive. There was a Supreme Court ruling called Cohen v. California. So where a young man named Paul Robert Cohen was arrested and convicted in California for wearing a jacket that had the words "F the draft" on it, only the real word, okay? He was arrested for disorderly conduct. He was convicted, and his case went all the way to the Supreme Court. And one of the things that the Supreme Court said is that offensive language, no matter how offensive, is protected speech under the First Amendment. And in here, we have had some pretty wild people come up here and make some pretty wild statements. And I'm very glad that nothing ever came of it, because if we were to start taking action against people who use offensive language, even in this forum, you would lose in court. You would end up settling and losing the city a couple $100,000 or more because of this case. And although I don't recommend that we exercise our freedom of speech in such an offensive manner, I thought about coming in here with a swastika on a shirt to try to show that this is legal behavior, or a rebel flag on the back of my shirt, or maybe on a hat or something like that. I don't have any of that in my wardrobe, so I really fell short as far as showing these kind of things tonight. But I just do want to remind everybody that in public, or even in any public venue, if people are wearing those types of things, it is perfectly legal and it is protected by the First Amendment because of this case. Because this guy actually was convicted, he went to jail, he spent a lot of time in jail. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything but walk through a courthouse. So imagine this, you're an American citizen, you believe in the Constitution, you believe in the First Amendment, and you want to express your feelings about something in a very profound and perfunct way, and then you get arrested and you spend a whole bunch of time in jail and then a whole bunch of time in court. It pretty much destroys your life for a long time. You may be victorious on the other end, but that's not what we're here to do. Even down here at the lowest level, we should always be studying things like the First Amendment and all of the different things that impact the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment. All of these things kind of work together. I've been spending a lot of time researching and all of that kind of stuff. But the key points from this decision, okay, symbolic speech is covered. So even if you have something on your person, okay, it's covered. You can't be kicked out of public just because you have a rebel flag, or you have a Trump hat or anything like that, or you have a Go Joe Biden sticker on the back of your car. no matter how offensive it is to other people. It's not your responsibility to protect them from those offenses, which was the next point, okay? Offensive speech is protected, and it's not the government's job to protect the citizens from offensive speech. So it's not your job to write laws or ordinances that say, you can't do this or you can't do that in public. There was a guy down in North Carolina, he had his car impounded for a very offensive statement on the back window. I'm not going to say it here, but it was covered under the First Amendment. He still lost his truck, he had to go pay the impound fees and all that stuff. He never got that stuff back, but that was protected. He never got charged. It was kind of messed up. Reaction to speech was covered here also. Other people's reactions to your speech, whether it's symbolic or in real life, is covered. So if I say something offensive, unless it's fighting words or unless it's face-to-face with you and I call you an expletive or something like that, you have to control your own behavior. Your behavior in a response to my symbolic F the draft coat, okay, is not my problem, and it's not the government's responsibility either. Okay, and that's what was covered here, and I just wanted to, I guess I needed 6 minutes. I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, and I wanted to brief everybody that there are rules, and there are laws that, and Supreme Court precedents that cover these types of things. I did look at our ordinances, and our ordinances are in order with this decision, so, thank you.
Thank you. All right. If anyone else would like to speak during the visitor section, feel free to do so at this time. All right, I will close the visitor section, and we will move on to ordinances. First one, Council Bill 2023-36.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-36, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa establishing and levying taxes on real property in the city for the 2023 tax year. This is an annual ordinance that we do every year so that we can levy taxes on real property in the city. I will call attention to a few things in the memo. The first is the final deadline to get the information to the county clerk is the 31st, which I believe is Thursday. So we need to, I do recommend that we pass it so I can get that information there to her on time. The second is, you'll notice that the evaluations that were sent to the recorder, the Christian County headliner, are different than the actual evaluations that were sent by the county clerk, and that the actual percentage is also different than what was sent to the headliner. That information comes from the county clerk and the Board of Equalization, and then the state auditor themselves. We have to send the notice to the newspaper 7 days before the public hearing, so usually the information changed. This year it did. The tax rate for this year did go down from last year. Other than that, staff does recommend approval, or we don't get to levy taxes.
Any questions from council? All right, thank you. We'll open up the public hearing on this. If you'd like to speak on this matter, do so at this time. We will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? All right, I will accept the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
First by Mr. Ogden, second by Ms. Morris. Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Zern Vess.
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
Matt Ogden.
Yes.
Moving on to Council Bill 2023-37.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-37, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa rezoning the real property generally located at 202 South Main Street from a single-family residential R1 district to a neighborhood commercial NC district, Presenting is Planning and Development Director Scott Gotti.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This rezone is for the Nixa Senior Citizens Center. They have, there we go. They have the southeast portion of their property still zoned as R1 single family, while the rest of their property is zoned neighborhood commercial. You'll see to the east, east and south of the subject lot is R1 single family zoning. To the west and to the north is neighborhood commercial zoning, which is their property. During the first reading, I may have misheard a question from the mayor, so I just wanted to clarify. The southeast portion, which is the lot that is in question, is a paved parking lot.
You don't say.
And then the southwest portion of the property is still a gravel parking lot. So there may have been some miscommunication there last time. Don't know, but we'll see. The reason why they are requesting a rezone is that at the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved a minor subdivision to combine all these lots into one. Now they just have to rezone this property to match the rest of their property, but they would like to put another parking structure roughly on this lot to accommodate parking for senior transportation. But they are running into that you can't do an accessory structure on a single-family lot without a residential structure first. And then also there was setback issues with the property lines that were existing. So the Planning and Zoning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval to City Council. And staff does recommend approval as is a continuation of existing zoning in the area. If you have any questions, I am available.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Gobby.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I will open up the public hearing on this, if you'd like to speak on this matter. I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? All right, I will accept the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second. First by Ms. Graham, second by Mr. Peterson. Roll call, please.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Zern Vest,
Yes.
Kelly Morris,
Yes.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
All right, second reading of Council Bill 2023-38.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-38, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa rezoning the real property generally located at the 1500 block of North Owen Road from a single-family residential R1 district to a two-family residential R4 district. Presenting is Planning and Development Director Scott Gottlieb.
Hello again. This is DMP Development. They are the owners of the 24 acres north of the bowling alley off of Owen Road. They are requesting to rezone approximately 4.8 acres of their single-family zone property to R4, which is for two-family or duplexes. You can see the area in question. It has been highlighted. The surrounding property is undeveloped highway commercial to the east, county property to the south, which contains a communication tower, and then to the west is a single-family subdivision out in the county. This rezone will act as kind of a buffer between the undeveloped highway commercial, if that were to develop as highway commercial, and the R1 single-family subdivision that will be housed inside of this R4 zoning. That will make a little more sense, hopefully, next month when we bring a preliminary plat to you. So they are proposing to rezone to R4. The current density standards for R4 is 5.45 dwelling units per acre. They are proposing to split this into, I believe, 12 lots, which is less than the max density. Staff does recommend approval, as this will provide a type of transitional zoning, and it does match the zoning arrangement on the future land use designation map. If you have any questions, I'm available.
To the east of that, is that what's currently zoned in that Century Industrial Park?
Yes.
Is that what's there? Okay.
Yeah, it's all highway
So this does
commercial zoning.
transition into, okay. That's all I got. Anything else from council? Thank you, Mr. Godby.
Thank you.
I will open up the public hearing on this, if you'd like to speak on this bill. We'll close the public hearing. Anything else from council? I will accept the motion.
So made.
Second.
First by Mr. Lucas, second by Mr. Ogden. Roll call, please.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Zern Vest,
Yes.
Kelly Morris,
Yes.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Second reading of Council Bill 2023-39.
Second reading Council Bill Number 2023-39, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa approving the preliminary plat of the subdivision known as the Spence Amended Addition to Glen Oaks Estates, replat of lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, Spence Addition to the Glen Oaks Estates, generally located at the northwest corner of the intersection of South Gregg Road and West Glen Oaks Drive, and authorizing certain city officials to take certain actions upon the filing of a final plat. Presenting is Planning and Development Director Scott Gott.
Mayor, Council, good evening. This is for approximately 2.2 acres, or a preliminary plat on approximately 2.2 acres. This is for lots 1 through 4 of the Spence Addition to the Glen Oaks Estates subdivision. It was annexed earlier this year and zoned R1 single family. So this preliminary plat is wanting to replat these 4 lots into 6 lots. It's not going to be lot 1, but it's going to be lot 9 because you have to renumber it since you're replatting these lots. So you have to go from the highest number of the last lot in the subdivision and start your numbering that way. So lot 9 will be where lot 1 and 2 used to be. It'll contain that portion of the sinkhole and a buildable portion. The reason for that is that way that maintenance of that particular area of the sinkhole will be tied to that developable lot. So if a home gets built there, that's who will be maintaining that piece of property. The rest of the lots will be over our minimum of 6,600 square feet. It'll be approximately 8,400 square feet. Each lot will be approximately. We did require an additional 10 feet of right-of-way from Glen Oaks Drive. So from the center line north, we required additional 10 feet of right-of-way. So the overall corridor will still not meet the minimum regulations for, or right-of-way standards for a local road, but we'll at least have this additional 10 feet. And if there were ever a need for the city to widen Glen Oaks Drive to city standards, we would have to acquire the 10 feet on the south side of Glen Oaks Drive, with property owners from the south side. This property does have access to all municipal utilities. There is some extensions that are required, but there is a water main on the south side. The property owner will be required to extend service lines and meters to, or meter pits to each lot, or each new lot created. There is a sewer line on the east side of South Gregg Road that they can tie into. They can't tie into the manhole directly at that intersection because that is where a force main will be tying into in the future as part of the Oakmont lift station, moving of the Oakmont lift station. Any costs incurred for utility extension will be incurred by the developer. There is a known sinkhole on the piece of property that you'll see off to the left. The solid red line in the middle is the rim of the sinkhole. The dashed blue line in the middle or inside is the flooding elevation. To expand on this topic a little bit, there is the the drainage basin of that particular sinkhole. So all the water from this area will be draining to that sinkhole. And again, excuse me, this puts it into more of a visual context as well, so you know where that flooding elevation approximately is and where the rim is in relation to other structures in that area. This is directly from the sinkhole evaluation that the property owner had performed in December of 2022, which meets our new standards for sinkhole evaluations and also in consideration to the stormwater. The registered geologist did walk the site, and according to his report, he did study historical LiDAR data, and that is the only sinkhole that was identified at that time. During the public hearing at the August 7th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, many property owners along Glen Oaks Drive did approach the commission to voice concerns about the sinkhole, possible aesthetics of the new homes, and the possibility that renters may be present in their community or in their street. With all things considered, the Planning and Zoning Commission did vote 4-1 to recommend approval to Nixa City Council. Staff has reviewed the preliminary plat and has determined the document to be in substantial conformance with the applicable regulations of Nixa City Code concerning major subdivisions within the R1 zoning district and does recommend approval. If you have any questions, available.
Just out of curiosity, on the county assessor's map, and you've seen it too, it shows that additional sinkhole to the east.
Correct.
Where did they get their data versus the sinkhole study that was done in December? And what's the discrepancy there?
So their data is based off of either known sinkhole studies, which has mapped the rim, or it's based off of just LiDAR data, which is just satellite data examining the topography of the ground. That's my best guess, is that in that evaluation, there was possibly a depression at that time, and it did identify something that could be a sinkhole, but upon further review by a registered geologist in the state of Missouri, he did not find that sinkhole and report it. So.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Godby.
Thank you.
And I will open up the public hearing if you would like to speak on this.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Mark Weber. I live at 1113 Glen Oaks Drive. I've lived there for 24 years. I also own the undeveloped half-acre lot next door at 1111. My mom, my parents built one of the first houses on the street at 1115 Glen Oaks, and my mom still resides there after 31 years. I thank you for the opportunity to come before you again to explain our objection to the rezoning of Spence Addition lots 1 through 4 of Glen Oaks Estates. I've prepared a packet with several items that I'll be referencing, and I don't know if you have these yet or not, but I've passed these out. The first page is, Mr. Godby showed you the picture of the sat view of the proposed preliminary plat. The second page is a plat of the land as it has been for 36 years up until this year, 18 1/2 acre lots. So if you look at that picture, you can kind of see the continuity of the neighborhood in relation to the plat in question. And the third page is the proposed rezoning. So you get a kind of a sense of how this land was originally laid out. Our street presents an unusual issue for the city: how to develop a recently annexed parcel of land into an already established and developed neighborhood. The original developer thought of this 35 years ago and had it platted for 4 lots and approved by the city in accordance with the City Code of Ordinances. The new developer's plan is to divide lots 3 and 4 into 6 separate lots and build small houses on each. If allowed to do so, we feel it will aesthetically alter the neighborhood and change the very nature of the original design, and in essence harm our property values, thus being in direct violation of the City Code of Ordinances, Section 115-2 and Section 115-36. I believe the Code of Ordinances offers more specific guidance than reinforces our position. These codes are the foundation of our argument and are one of the very principles that the council is entrusted to uphold. I'd like to cite these two specific sections. This is the City Code of Ordinances, Section 115, dealing with subdivisions. Section 115-2. The purpose of this section: number 1 is to ensure the public's health, safety, and welfare are secured. Number 2, to maintain property values by preserving existing development and ensure orderly new development. Number 3, to stabilize neighborhoods and preserve their quality. Number 4, to provide a uniform set of regulations for the entire city. And number 5, to ensure traffic safety through safe and orderly movement of vehicles through the city. The developer's vision is singularly his own, with questionable regard for the rest of the neighborhood. There's no provision to accommodate the existing neighborhood's lot size, architecture, or continuity of home sites. The next section is similar in nature, but obviously so important that it was worth including twice. The City Code of Ordinances, Section 115-36. Subdivision plat review process. Application for preliminary plat approval shall be reviewed with all city-adopted codes. The following review criteria shall be used to ensure development in the proposed location. Number 1, will not endanger the public safety and health. Number 2, will not injure the value of adjoining property or abutting property. Number 3, will be in harmony with the area in which it is located. I would like to read those two one more time if I may. Will not injure the value of adjoining property or abutting property, and will be in harmony with the area in which it is located. And number 4, will be in conformity with the comprehensive plan, thoroughfare plan, zoning regulations, or other plan officially adopted by the City Council. Based on the developer's rezoning plan, it appears he has no interest in adhering to either the Nixa Code of Ordinances or the city's comprehensive plan. I don't believe, I said this before, and I don't believe we can always ask or expect a developer to do what's best for our community, the town, or in this case, our neighborhood. That task is assigned to you. In conclusion, I would ask the City Council this question: aren't these Code of Ordinances, specifically these sections, written to protect neighborhoods like Glen Oaks Estates from indiscriminate development practices? And doesn't the City Council, by their very nature, have an obligation to enforce these codes? We would ask the City Council to vote against this proposed rezoning of Glen Oaks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Weber. All right. And next.
Good evening. My name is David Montgomery, and I reside at 1116 Glen Oaks Drive with my wife. When we first saw the public meeting sign go up for the annexation and the zoning earlier in the year, we called the city, and we felt good about the response. We felt good that it was going to be brought into the city. We felt good that it was going to be proposed for R1 zoning. We always assumed there'd be residential properties at the end of our street. We didn't even come to the meeting because we felt that it made sense. When the next notice went up, we saw the proposed 6-lot preliminary plat for the first time. Normally, this situation would have been contained by our CCRs, our conditions, our covenants, and our restrictions. In our situation, I learned that these 4 lots were accepted from our CC&Rs back in 1987. It's my understanding the brother and sister living on this land had chickens and other livestock, and most of us probably remember the old farmhouse that stood on this property as well. There was no way the brother and sister could abide by any subdivision covenant or restriction. Because of this unique scenario, the remaining owners in Glen Oaks Estates must rely on our city leaders to protect our investments. We are not against the development of this land. However, we ask that you follow the City of Nixa's existing ordinances outlined in section that Mark just read, 115.36, and it states the following review criteria shall be used by staff to ensure the development in the proposed location, number 1, will not endanger the public health or safety. I'm very concerned about adding 2 cars per home, 12 additional vehicles on a dead-end street, and a very busy bus stop. Number 2, to ensure the development in the proposed location will not injure the value of adjoining property. Number 3, to ensure the development in the proposed location will be in harmony with the area in which it is located. And number 4, to ensure the development in the proposed location will be in conformity with the comprehensive plan. There are 8 platted lots abutting the lots in this proposed plat. 8 platted lots. We have Gregg Road to the east. We have 3 lots to the north on Vineyard. All 3 of those lots are .88 of an acre. We have 1 lot to the west adjoining this property, over half an acre. We have 4 lots to the south, all part of Spence Addition, and all 4 of those lots are over half an acre. Literally in the middle of the north, west, and south platted lots, this proposed plat is going to request 4 lots. I had them at .21 acre. Based on the square footage stated tonight, it sounds like that's been tweaked down from the proposed plat that I saw. And now we're looking at .19 acre for these 4 lots, right in the middle of 8 platted lots, significantly larger. In addition to that, there'd be 1 lot at 1.1 acres that will maintain the sinkhole, disregarding the possible presence of another sinkhole shown on historical maps. Please vote no on this preliminary plat. Please vote no on 7-foot side setbacks, resulting in 14 feet between homes. Please guide this developer to compromise and conform to the neighborhood. I've given you a handout. I wanted to make some points as I wrap up here. Since this developer acquired the property in September of 2021, the following things have occurred. They have tried to sell the property as is. They were over 4 months late on their 2021 real estate taxes. They are currently 8 months past due on their 2022 real estate tax. Their ability to conduct business in the state of Missouri has been revoked by the Secretary of State. The letter in front of you from Secretary of State Ashcroft actually says this corporation may not carry on any business in the state of Missouri. I ask that you turn down this preliminary plat, and I ask our Planning and Zoning Department to work with the developer to make sure this traffic pattern is safe with whatever is approved. I ask that we work with this developer to ensure the value to not injure, work with this developer to not injure the value of adjoining property, and work with this developer to ensure this development that lies within a 36-year-old development, my subdivision, will be in harmony with the area in which it is located and conform to the city's comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Just curious, are they still operating under that same name, or did they create a new company?
I have not seen the documents that are in front of you.
Okay.
We didn't hear that question.
I asked if they were still operating under the same name, and he has not seen the documents. If they had let that one dissolve and then created a new company, that's why I'm curious. Okay. I can look up. All right. If anyone else would like to speak on this matter.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Randy Bradley. I live at 1126 Vineyard. I've spoken to you at the last meeting. Just to reiterate, I guess, the concern for the existing sinkhole that's out there at the west end of the property. And I've talked before about too much erosion, I guess. I should say that now, I didn't before. Plugging the sinkhole where it doesn't drain properly. Well, today I spoke to my former boss at DNR, who's now the chief of air and land, and she reminded me of something else. It's not only plugging it that can cause a problem. If they do something to change the hydrology of the site such that excessive flows go into that sinkhole, it can cause problems, I guess, downstream, underground, like erosion below somebody's house downstream. That's what I'm guessing she was talking. I didn't ask her. But that would be a concern too I hadn't even thought about. And what the gentleman was just saying about the Secretary of State's website, I looked them up too. And I looked up this developer on them too, and I saw the same thing. And I thought, surely I'm looking at the wrong name on here. He wouldn't be trying to operate without a being registered with the Secretary of State, but I couldn't find anything else. I was like you said, Mayor, I was kind of wondering if he had a different name, but I couldn't find anything. And when I contacted DNR, they didn't have any information on him at all. So I know if this goes on, he's going to have to get a land disturbance permit and develop a stormwater pollution prevention plan for them to review, and they'll be doing inspections on it. But I would rather not risk having a problem. I would rather see it resolved up front. The more lots we have, the more concrete you're going to have down. That's going to increase the flow going down into the sinkhole. The more driveways, more sidewalks. I mean, it's an issue that needs to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak?
My name is Ron Sanders, and I live at the other end of Glen Oaks Drive. I think y'all know the number, right? I drive by there every single day, and it's a subdivision. I heard them speak the ordinances, and the ordinance didn't say anything about the ordinances only covering city property. So I would be surprised if you guys didn't look into that and try to say that that only covers city property. But the way he read it, those ordinance covers all property, not just city property. So make sure that we note that. We have subdivisions for a reason, okay? We have subdivisions because people are spending, 30 or 40 years of their lives buying property. They sweat for 8 to 10 hours a day, 5-6 days a week, putting everything that they have to own a piece of the American dream. And for a developer to just walk in, that may or may not even be a registered business or not, and say, hey, I'm not going to follow how your subdivision's laid out, and I don't really care what it does to your property values. I'm just going to make as much money as possible by doing whatever I can twist people's arms to do to develop it into something that I can make lots of money off of. And that's wrong. The Planning and Zoning Commission is supposed to protect us from stuff like that, and the Planning and Zoning Commission probably should have considered those two city ordinances whenever they were going through the process, because it sounds to me like it would be illegal, according to these city ordinances, to pass this ordinance tonight. Sounds kind of against the existing ordinances. So, I mean, and then what are we going to do? We're going to do the non-registered entity a favor by making them, a couple $100,000 or a couple $1 million and destroying everybody else's property values? Nah, the subdivisions that exist should be respected. Okay? When you have those covenants, it doesn't matter whether it's in the county or if it's in the city, it's on the same street. I don't care what happened 30 years ago because somebody was given a preference 30 years ago. This is now. And all of those properties on that street should be treated similarly, not equal, but similarly. They should all have to follow the covenants of all of the rest of the existing land. Otherwise, I could go into the middle of my subdivision, I could buy up a couple of houses, demolish them, grease a few wheels here, and build an apartment complex around everybody else's, really nice $300,000 houses. How is that fair to those people that have spent the 25, 30 years buying their houses and now they have to deal with something like that? It'd be kind of the equivalent of taking a subdivision with 90 houses and a developer coming in and buying up 50 of them and turning them all into rentals. Sorry, it's a fact. Rentals don't hold their property values as well as owned properties. They do change a neighborhood. I was a renter my whole life until 2019. I know and understand the dynamics. I understand why homeowners wouldn't want me as a renter living inside of their development. And I heard the remarks at the last meeting about R2 front properties. I'm the HOA president of the South Haven Estates, and I just wanted to let you all know, those are no longer rentals. They have been purchased, and they are now owned by real people, and they cut their grass. But it's true. Whenever you have rentals, you struggle with getting people to cut their grass. You struggle with people to keep their property clean. You struggle with people of maintaining their property. It's a real pain, and it will hit their property values. It will hit it hard because it's right up front. It would not only be unfair, but like both gentlemen pointed out, I believe it would be illegal according to those two ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak on this? Okay. Oh. Last second, Jeff.
I just wanted to put on record, on the recording, I don't know, how many homeowners do we have from Glen Oaks? Do we know the count? It's almost the whole subdivision. So I just wanted that on record, that this is a uniform complaint by all the residents, including a council member at Glen Oaks Estates. I also want to go on record that we're not against development, but we are against development that doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thank you,
Can I
Mr.
get your
Doherty.
name?
It's Jeff Doherty. Yes. Jeff Doherty. All right. I need 1 second until Drew gets back in here. But I will close the public hearing, but I would like to call a 10 to 15 minute recess. I need to speak to our legal counsel. We'll start working. There we go. Okay, did a little additional research and trying to get things to match up and make sense, and was unable to do that. So I would like to postpone the vote on this and any further discussion to the meeting on Thursday, the 7th, which will be our next regularly scheduled meeting. I think we need to do a little bit of research and figure this out before moving forward. So, if I could get a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
First by Ms. Graham, a second by Mr. Ogden. Roll call, please.
Zern Bess,
Yes.
Kelly Morris,
Yes.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all for bearing with me for a little bit there. Okay. Moving forward, second reading, Council Bill 2023-40.
Second reading Council Bill Number 2023-40, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 101, Article 2, Division 2, Section 101-69 of the Nixa City Code to modify the number of members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Presenting is Planning and Development Director Scott Gobby.
Mayor, Council, good evening. We are requesting to amend Section 101-69 of Nixa City Code. It requires that there be 9 citizen members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have been operating for the majority of this year with just 7 members, which requires, with the 9-member requirement, it puts our quorum at 5. Since we just recently lost a Planning and Zoning Commissioner, we are now down to 6 active members. Reducing the Planning and Zoning Commission to 7 appointed members would also reduce quorum to 4, which would ensure that we have an easier number to achieve a meeting. Staff does recommend approval, and if you have any questions, I'm available.
Any questions? Thank you for your work on this. I think everyone was here, but the purpose of this is I wanted to work towards building a stronger Planning and Zoning Commission of people who will always show up, do the additional research, go on site to see what they're voting on, and just have that stronger commission so we get even more accurate and stronger information for us to make our decisions. If there's no more questions or any questions from council, I will open up the public hearing on this, if you'd like to speak.
Yeah. Wasn't planning on to, but I think it's a bad idea. I think the more eyes, the more ears, the more thoughts, the more diverse thoughts on a board like this would always lead to a better outcome. If you reduce it, you're going to make it easier to become a bubble. You're going to make it easier for whoever's sitting up here to pick like-minded people so that they get the outcomes that they want, not necessarily the outcomes that should happen. With more people, yeah, sure, it's harder work. You got to go out and you got to find more people that are willing to do the work. Maybe. But yeah, there are people out there. You just have to cast a wider net. You have to get to know the community a little bit better, and you have to start asking people, hey, come serve your city. People will whenever you ask. But to reduce it, why not just reduce it to 3? That way you never have a tie. Just make it 3 people. You can find 3 very easily swayed people that'll do whatever you want them to do, you know? And then you can just toss things to them real quick, and they can just rubber stamp it, and you get whatever you want. Right now, there's already a perception that Nixa favors developers over the citizens. It's been happening over the past couple years with all of the different actions that have been happening, all of the different crowds of people that have come in here speaking about all of the different developments. And people are starting to see that the city is going to protect developers over their property and their property rights and their property values. And they're seeing the writing on the wall, and the good people, the people that have spent 20, 30 years here, they're selling and they're moving. They're moving to some place, and not everybody thinks this way, but people who spent 20 or 25 years buying their property think this way. You're not going to protect our property rights. Why am I going to own property here? I can go to Stratford, I can go up to Fairgrove, I can start looking at other cities that may have a propensity to favor me as an owner over the developers that are going to come in and, you know, put 6 duplexes at the front of my subdivision that has, you know, beautiful $500,000 houses on half-acre or more pieces of property and stuff. So I think that, if anything, you need more. And people need to go out there and start pounding the pavement and knocking on doors and saying, hey, will you come and serve? So you guys got a choice to make. Shrink it down so that it's easy to control and it's easy to make a rubber stamp, or leave it the size it is and work hard and make it work for your citizens. And I don't know whether you guys do see it my way, but from what the feedback I'm getting is that people see the writing on the wall. Developers can come here, we want more housing, we're going to bend over backwards to give them whatever they want, at the expense of the people who have been here for 15, 20 years. It's kind of the equivalent of me working at a company for 25 years and, you know, working my way up the ladder, and then somebody comes out of college and the company bends over backwards to give them a $25,000 bonus and pay for their moving here, and, you know, giving them a plush, parachute or whatever they call it. Meanwhile, I haven't had a bonus in, 3 to 5 years. That's kind of what it looks like. You know, the new guy coming in, the developer coming in, hey, we got the gold platter for you, buddy. Citizens, yeah, you've been working 20 years for that property. You almost got it paid off. Almost got it paid off. But, it's not worth what it was 10 minutes ago before we passed this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. If anyone else would like to speak on this, I will close the public hearing. And I do see what you're saying, which is exactly why, because if I put 27 people on this, 7 would show up, maybe. It's been a revolving door for the past 4 years. Been hoping that we do find a very well diverse 7 people that don't agree on everything and don't rubber stamp everything. That's obviously, that's my goal at least. Anything else from council? Anything else from staff? All right. I will accept a motion.
So made. Second.
First by Mr. Peterson, a second by Mr. Lucas. Roll call, please.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
Matt Ogden.
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Aaron Peterson.
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Zern Vess.
Yes.
All right, moving on to Council Bill 2023-41.
Second reading Council Bill number 2023-41, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending Chapter 29, Article 5, Division 6, Section 20-392 of the Nixa City Code for the purpose of prohibiting the operation of all-terrain vehicles on the streets within the city. Presenting is City Administrator Jimmy Laus.
Mayor, Council, in 2018, City Council adopted an ordinance allowing the use of golf carts on city streets. During that time, there was a lot of discussion about potentially allowing UTVs and ATVs. It was decided at the time not to allow UTVs, and there was also some indication from council at that time that they did not want ATVs either. Although there is still an ordinance on the books that would allow the use of an ATV on city street if a city permit was issued. I can tell you we've not issued any city permits since 2018 for ATVs. And just for clarification, an ATV is defined as a motor vehicle that is straddled. I couldn't think of that word for a minute
Yeah.
there, and I thought of that all day. So anyway, there is currently an ordinance on the books that would allow for that. But again, as I said, we've not issued any permits based off of in 2018 council's direction. They really did not want to allow those. We're just trying to clean up the ordinance a little bit. So if you do adopt the ordinance tonight or the amended ordinance tonight, it would make the use of ATVs on city streets illegal unless it is for the operation of a governmental entity and also for agricultural use that is on the premises and also between the hours of sunrise and sunset. So those two exceptions would still apply for the use of ATVs. But otherwise, if passed tonight, it would be illegal to operate an ATV on a city street. Staff is recommending the adoption of tonight's ordinance due to obviously safety concerns of utilizing ATVs on city streets. Be happy to answer any questions.
Would it be possible to get a special use permit for things? Just for example, in Sucker Day, we had a couple of them that allowed us to haul things around to one end of the block to the other and get things to vendors in a timely manner rather than having to carry them by hand.
They're different within events,
Okay.
especially because that's why I bring my golf cart
Yeah.
to Sucker Days and we use those. And I believe, I could be completely wrong. If so, then my bad, I broke the law. As long as it stays within the event area.
Yeah, we kept it right on the streets.
Don't go driving down 14 to go to Ozark and go
Well,
watch a movie.
This
but
is also for ATVs, like four-wheelers and three-wheelers.
Side by sides.
And side by,
Well, we did
well, this
have a
isn't a
couple people show
UTV,
up
this is
with
just
us,
an
so-
ATV,
Yeah,
correct?
just for clarification,
You're
this
thinking
does
a
not
UTV.
talk
Yeah.
about UTVs. It's only an
Yeah.
all-terrain vehicle that is
It's
straddled.
just
So it'd be like a-
ATVs, it's not
Okay.
golf
Four-wheeler.
carts, it's
That's what I
not.
wanted to clarify on that. Okay, thank you.
But UTVs are not allowed, correct? So maybe we need to look at that as well.
I know a while back we did look into it a little bit more, and there is ways to put blinkers. I mean, a lot of the side by sides already have seat belts, but put blinkers and things like that. But something with I think it was either state or federal that was saying that even with the kits, you can't make them truly street legal.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a lot of issues with accidents on those. I actually witnessed one in Ozark because they'll just be going down the road and then they can just go through ditches and they actually flipped it. It'd be a little harder on a golf cart, but you can.
You can.
So I think that's what this
Okay.
kind of goes towards. Any other questions? All right, we will open up the public hearing. If you would like to speak about all-terrain vehicles. All right. You guys don't want to speak about all-terrain vehicles back there? All right. All right, we'll close the public hearing. Anything else from council? Anything else from staff? We'll accept a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
First by Mr. Ogden, second by Ms. Graham. Roll call, please.
Matt Ogden,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Zern Vess,
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to resolutions. First up, resolution number 2023-39.
Resolution number 2023-39, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Decker and D. Good PC for an annual independent audit of all city accounts. Presenting is Finance Director Jennifer Evans.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. According to our city charter and also state statute, we're required to have an independent audit done of all city accounts. And so best practice would have us go out to bid for those services. We issued the bid invitation to 54 vendors. 10 of those were direct invitations to CPA firms. After the initial bid invitation, we only had received one response, so we extended the deadline and sent it out to 6 more firms. and received 5 no bids and 10 no responses and 1 qualifications that was sent in, and it is our current auditor, Decker and DeGood.
Any questions?
And then, Mayor, Council, I'll also add that if the resolution is passed and we continue with Decker Be Good, we are going to speak with them about getting the audit to council sooner and provide council some additional time to review that. So we'll make that part of our, we'll have that discussion with them and make sure that that's included.
I did include that in the scope of requested, when I put out the request that the audit be made available to council at least a week before the meeting where it would be presented. And I did put in the scope a PowerPoint presentation so that it's a little bit more explanatory when the time comes to present the audit. So those 2 things were required in the request for qualifications.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. No other questions. I will open up the public hearing if you'd like to speak on this. No? All right. I will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? Anything else from staff? I will accept a motion.
So made.
I'll second.
We got a first by Mr. Peterson, a second by Mrs. Morris. Roll call, please. Nope, sorry. I almost did it. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Resolution passes. Resolution 2023-40.
Resolution number 2023-40, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to solicit proposals for the extension of certain sidewalks and trails at Macaulay Park, presenting as Parks Director Matt Kraus.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This resolution would allow us to put out an RFP, RFP for the extension of sidewalks and trails at Macaulay Park. We are using impact fees as a part of this, to pay for this particular project. And I have attached a map just showing the 3 areas that we think are the most probable to put the trails. Most of them are sidewalk extensions at the moment. With the inclusive playground opening up, a direct sidewalk connection, continuing city sidewalk to the playground is something that we think is the most important thing that we need to do right now. And so you'll notice in that map that on number 1, it would be our project main scope to ensure that we were getting those sidewalks extended from Taylor Way to the playground itself. Number 2 project would also connect Taylor Way to our back parking lot and the sidewalks along the back parking lot to the community center. And then number 3 would go ahead and extend some of the trail through the park. And the hope is to do all of it. However, our budget may be a little bit constraining for all of it. But it would be a good step towards connecting those and then possibly continuing to do that over the next few years using those impact fees as we add new trails. So before putting out this RFP, we wanted to visit with you all, let you know what we were looking at here, and with your blessing, we will get this RFP out for this project to be completed before the end of the year.
I definitely think one's important because we were shooting a video over there the other day, and when kids come from the neighborhood, they have to go into the roadway to get to the park.
It's parking lot, but yes, it is still the roadway of the parking lot.
So number 2 coming off Taylor Way into the back parking lot, that goes to another somewhat sidewalk that's closer to the building, and then that one dead ends down there.
That one would dead end
towards
as
the
well.
pool.
Correct.
Drew, could you scroll on down to that map, please, so we can see? Thank you.
It would there. We could block out a couple of parking spaces and make a basically a crosswalk across the parking lot to the trail to the north.
Yeah.
However, there'll be a little concern with that at the moment, being that I doubt that ramp is ADA accessible.
Okay.
You know, it's been used as more of a drive to allow parked vehicles up in there to work on soccer fields and do maintenance work, move our concession stand and things currently.
So is this done, like, number one, number two, number three, is that in order by budget or in your?
That would be our priority work.
Priority?
And so,
Okay.
in laying out that with that contractor would be completing number one, number two, before moving to number three. And so if our budget does cut us short, then we may do a portion, if not all, but a portion of number three, in hoping to complete that portion then maybe in a future year.
So
And we would anticipate, if we don't have a budget to complete it all, I would anticipate pushing something next year to finish that out in next year's budget.
Okay. Because what, I mean, you said it, going from that, the one on the back parking lot across, and then it goes over by the soccer fields and stuff. What do you think the likelihood is that's how most people are going to treat that as of now anyway?
You know, they can use it as is, and so before we connect it up to it and before we would make it a designated area, we would want to get that into ADA compliance. And so if we go ahead and do priority number two or job two there,
Okay.
ending it where it ends at the end of their that back parking lot area is still okay. It's access to the building.
Yep.
They could come through the building to access the front, or any way that way, but it is still access from our north end into the building there.
I wouldn't mind taking a look at right there where that would go across. I wish I had the laser pointer. Where it goes up to that spot that you're
Yeah,
talking
and
isn't
making
ADA
that more ADA
compliant because
compliant.
it's too steep. Maybe looking just to the southeast of that, putting either throwing in a temporary speed bump or something. Honestly, we might even need it anyway because I've seen people coming off the soccer fields and then a car coming through it a little bit. I mean, in a parking lot like this, 10 miles an hour looks like they're screaming.
Right.
So it might be a good idea to look at throwing down something
We could certainly do that.
just to slow people down. Is that where you were going with that?
No.
Oh, okay. I'll stop talking if you want.
Tire spikes.
Oh, okay, that would work too, but it might get expensive.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I did have a question on the number three. Looking at it, it comes down and it loops completely around. It looks like it loops through another lot there. I'm not sure what that lot is.
It's still park property.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And why are we taking it clear around instead of not a shorter path to the playground?
Because I think it's because the ground goes down, isn't it?
This would just be a connection to a longer-term plan to add more connectivity around the entire park.
Okay.
So the hope would be to eventually come down that west property line, off the soccer fields, closer to the property line, and then connect up to some of the trails that are up around the soccer fields to get a full loop trail, if you will, around the park. Currently, it's kind of hit and miss in bits and pieces, and so working towards connecting all of it.
Do you have a current plan drawn out already for all that?
The park master plan identified several ways of connecting it up, and so yes, we would be following that, and this that number three area would be one of those ways of being able to do that.
And then also where that connects to Taylor Way, I'm assuming there's a sidewalk that runs on that side of Taylor Way right there?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, there's sidewalk on both sides of Taylor Way through that opening section in front of the community center.
Is that easily emailed?
I'm sorry?
That plan easily emailed, or is it?
It's on our website.
It's on their website, on the park website.
Nixaparks.com, go to the bottom, and all of our master plans are listed there.
Perfect.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we will open up the public hearing if you'd like to speak on sidewalks or trails. Nothing? All right. We will close the public hearing. Anything else from council? All right, I will accept a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second. First by Mr. Vest, second by Mr. Peterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Perfect. Moving on to unfinished business. Mr. Douglas, you have 5 minutes. Oh, just kidding. You have 4.5 minutes. Down to 4.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Last fall, we adopted new branding for the city, and part of that discussion included new flag design, but that was postponed. We kind of adopted everything else in our brand kit except for a flag, and it just kind of sat on the back burner for a while, and I wanted to bring that back up for you guys to discuss and hopefully give us some direction on which way you want us to go regarding the flag design, because the current city flag matches the old logo that is no longer officially our logo. It's still going to be in use until, you know, we said that the implementation of the new branding takes 5, 6, 7 years-ish before everything kind of gets cycled out. And but we want to kind of start moving towards getting a flag that matches the current branding. So the flag of Nixa should be a welcoming symbol which represents our entire community, and anyone in the community can use a city's flag and fly it with pride. That's the idea of a flag. It's not really like the logos that we adopted in the fall are intended to be kind of official symbols of the city, right? So they indicate, if you're wearing a city logo on your shirt, that indicates you work for the city, right? Or if you're wearing a police patch, that indicates you're a police officer. If you're wearing the Parks patch or Parks logo, that indicates you have some association with the Parks Department. But the idea of a flag is that it's kind of representative of the entire community. It's not necessarily owned by the municipal government, it's owned by the people. So, what is vexillolography? Vexillolography is the art of flag design. The North American Vexillological Association, that exists, that's a thing, and encourages flag designers to follow basic principles and best practices as outlined in a book that they call Good Flag, Bad Flag, How to Design a Great Flag. A quick reference book that was compiled by Ted Kay based on expert wisdom of over 20 vexillographers. 5 principles of good flag design. We're not going to read through that book, but I'm just going to summarize some key points of that, just because I think it's good for us to keep in mind when we're trying to design a flag, to be thinking about best practices. So 1, according to this book, is keep it simple. The flag should be so simple that a child can draw it from memory. Number 2, use meaningful symbolism. The flag's images, colors, or patterns should relate to what it symbolizes. Rule number 3, use 2 or 3 basic colors. Limit the number of colors on the flag to 3, which contrast well and come from the standard color set. 4, no lettering or seals. Never use writing of any kind or an organization's seal on a flag. Number 5, be distinctive or be related. Avoid duplicating other flags, but use similarities to show connections. And there's some additional advice in that booklet. It says, don't allow a committee to design a flag. When you kind of get people together trying to kind of design by committee, that gets complicated. So instead, they recommend empowering individuals to design flags and using the committee, that would be you guys, our city council, to select from among those designs to pick which one you want to adopt. Remember, flags drape without wind. Consider that during the design and how it'll look either when it's full with the wind or when there's no wind and it's just going to hang. Rectangle is a standard flag shape. Proportions should remain between 1 and 1.5 and 1 to 2. And upper left corner is called the canton. That's the point of honor. So like at the U.S. flag, we have in the canton, we have a blue area with the 50 stars, right? That's our canton of the American flag. Not all flags have to have a design in the canton. It says that we can depart from the 5 principles, but only with caution and purpose. And again, these are just guidelines, these are just best practices. There's no rules we have to follow, there's no law that we have to follow. It's just kind of best practices. Previous city flag designs. So the one on the left here is the city flag that was prior to 2018. It had the old city seal on it. And our previous and current city flag designs violate the best practices of vexillography by including seals text and too much fine detail. And on the right is our city flag since 2018. And that one was adopted after a design contest, which occurred in 2018. And the winner of that design contest was a woman in Delaware, I think, who basically just took the logo that we had and zoomed it out and put it on a red background and turned the red X into a white X, and then that was what we ended up picking. We gave her a $1,000 prize, and that was the best flag submission that we got. So that's the flag we ended up with out of a contest that we had. So let's talk a little bit about flag design. So we're going to scroll through these really quick. Scott, you can just kind of keep scrolling. That's Washington, D.C.'s city flag. That's the flag of Chicago. Keep going. This is just more just to kind of get some examples. The city flag of Colorado, Phoenix, St. Louis, Wichita, Kansas, Portland, Indianapolis, New Orleans, Mesa, Arizona, Salt Lake City, Columbia, Missouri, Tulsa, Sioux Falls, Springfield, Missouri's new design. Okay, let's stop here for a second. All of those examples, I just show those to you because those are examples that the NAVA, that American Association of Vexillographers, has recognized as good examples of good flag design. And so that's something that we want to, there's kind of something to emulate there. There's no words on any of those flags, there's no seals on any of those flags, and the shapes are kind of big and broad, and they're not filled with fine detail, right? From a distance, you can clearly see what they are. This is a bad example. So according to NAVA, the flag of Oklahoma City, it's just got a seal on it and it's white, and when it hangs, it looks like the city of Oklahoma City has surrendered, because you just see the canton area, or you might see the lower right corner when it's hanging without wind in it, and it kind of looks like, why are they flying the white flag of surrender, right? Keep going. The city of Boston also gets points against it for its flag design. It's just their city seal. It's a cool city seal, honestly, but it doesn't really work for a flag because it's hard to read from a distance what's on that flag. The city of Fort Worth has 2 words, and also if you were to take the words away, it doesn't really fix it, because that longhorn is known as a symbol of University of Texas, which is critically not in Fort Worth, but it's in Austin. So it looks a little more like a symbol of Austin than it does a symbol of Fort Worth. And you can keep going. Detroit has a flag that's a little bit too complicated, and so I'm going to give up on that word. They are advocating for the experts in this field. There we go. The experts in the field are advocating for the flag design in the lower right there. That's called the Detroit Rise flag, and they're advocating that their city council adopt that as the new city flag. Kansas City, the experts in this field also don't like this flag because of the logo and the words included on it. And because the colors blue, white, and red, if those were just by themselves, that's actually the flag of the country of France. And so the experts in the field have proposed swapping the colors and just leaving the logo in the middle, and that would be a better city flag, according to the experts. Keep going. So, what should Nixa's new flag be? I recommend we follow the best practices of good flag design. I have read Good Flag, Bad Flag, studied that book a little bit, talked about it with a graphic designer that helped us develop the logos in our brand kit, and followed its principles in proposing option A. But it's possible to conceive of other designs which also follow those design principles. It's certainly not the only design that would follow those rules. But the other options as requested by council would not, some of the other options as requested by council would not follow these best practices, and I would rather get the flag right this time than have the experts pressure us to change it yet again in a few years. I'd like to kind of, let's settle it and move on and not have to revisit this anymore. So, proposed city flag option A. This is what I would recommend based on the best practices in the field. And if you scroll down to the next one, Scott, I've got a little explanation here of what the symbology is of this, what the thinking is. So first you'll notice that this design is in red, white, and blue, hearkening to the colors of our national flag and the colors of our city that have been adopted. Red and blue also have unique meaning for Nixa. Nixa red reminds the viewer of our red azaleas, which are our official city flower, and represents our passionate commitment to an exceptional quality of life and public service. Innovation blue represents strength, peace, responsibility, wisdom, truth, and trustworthiness. The two parallel bars in Innovation blue represent the James and Finley rivers, between which the Nixa is located. And the four converging arrows in Nixa red represent the place which attracts people from all around to make their home. And X in the negative space between those converging arrows marks the spot where you may find that which you treasure most. Historically, the X in the name of our city has symbolized a crossroads. It has also come to signify a multiplier of opportunity. The X factor, if you will, right? The people of Nixa are the intangible X factor of our community. They are our town's greatest asset. Our potential for forward progress comes from their vision and determination. The white background represents the opportunity anyone has in Nixa to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. It also represents their opportunity to shape our community's future, our blank slate of the future, right? So that's what I would propose as an explanation for the design of the flag. And keep going here. But we don't have to go with option A. We have an option B here, where the logo is placed a little bit larger on the flag with narrower bars on the sides. Meaning and symbology would still be the same as for option A. We can go to the next one here. Option C, horizontal bars are placed with the arrows of time pointing in towards the X. The left blue arrow points to the future, where the humanity is heading. The right blue arrow points to our past, which roots us in our history and informs our present. Nixa is the place to be, right here in the present. The con for this design is that it looks a little bit like a belt buckle, I think. And we can go to the next one here. Option D, the logo symbol, the X which marks the spot, is placed in the canton, the place of honor on the flag, where it would be seen even when the flag is hanging limp without wind. The negative side of this is that the blue across the bottom seems to evoke more of kind of an ocean, maybe on the horizon kind of a thing. I don't know that it necessarily evokes Nixa as much. We can go to the next one. There's a couple designs that our graphic designer helped put together, but which I don't recommend because they include too much detail. It's that nice silhouette that we developed in our brand kit, but I think it's too much detail and it kind of starts to break the rules of good flag design here. But the silhouettes of our city sits on the horizon. The logo mark sits below the horizon. I feel that has too much white space, so the wind's not blowing. It may also appear to be the flag of surrender, like Oklahoma City's flag, right? And we'll keep going to the next one. So another one that was proposed was having a blue sky. That kind of solves that surrender flag issue, but it still is violating that rule number one, keep it simple. The flag should be so simple that a child can draw it from memory. I think that the silhouette's just a little bit too complex for a kid to be able to remember, right? So, how do we want to choose which our next flag is going to be? Those are just some ideas. I've sketched dozens and dozens and dozens and worked with the graphic designer on many, many, many different flag designs. Those are the only ones I feel confident enough to even show you. And so I think that the next question is, what do you want us to do as far as the process to select our new flag? So, flag adoption process, option number one. Council votes, not tonight, but in the next meeting, to adopt one of the designs presented in this presentation. Staff would immediately begin to implement that flag, and staff and council would then be able to immediately kind of move on to other issues. Option number two, council votes tonight to narrow the acceptable options that we presented tonight to 2 or 3 of your favorites that you'd all be willing to live with. And then we can kind of take those 2 or 3 and do a little public poll on the internet and see which of the ones that you all find acceptable that the public prefers, and we could select one of those based on the public vote. Now, be aware that I don't really have a way to limit or guarantee that people are only voting one time, and I also don't have a way to limit to make sure it's only Nixa residents or Nixa community members voting. So it would be essentially be open to anyone in the world, and anybody could vote as many times as they want. You could even conceive somebody could potentially build a bot that would vote for one. So is it really going to be reflective of the public? I don't know, but we could cross our fingers and hope and pick a winner based off of that. And then based on, at the end of that polling period, maybe it'd be 2 weeks, we'd have that open online and we could share the link out to the public, try to get some press coverage of it. And at the end of that time, whichever one is the highest vote getter, we would start to implement. Option number 3 is council instructs staff to develop rules for a flag design contest. It would be open to any designer, because again, we can't limit whether they're residents of the city or not. Contest should remain open for at least 1 month, in my opinion, if we were going to do that. City would need to invest in marketing and publicity for that contest. Communications department staff would need to collect the submissions and present all submissions to council. Council votes would then vote at a future meeting to narrow the acceptable options to 2 to 3 of their finalist designs with a commitment to adopt the winner of a public vote. And then we would put that out to a public vote, those finalists, if you will, and again, have the same issues with not being able to guarantee that people are only voting once and not being able to guarantee that they're only Nixa residents that are participating in that vote. But at the end of that, we could adopt whichever one is the highest vote getter. So, option 1, 2, or 3, how do we want to pick our new flag?
Any input?
I think we pick a top 3 out of that right there. Discussion next week or whenever.
Well, considering we've already used some of our stuff like that, I don't see where option 3 is even an option.
Yeah, option.
Yeah. So 1 or 2?
Mm-hmm.
Question is, do we want to decide it or do we want to let the public decide it? Based on option 1 and option 2.
I do like community feedback. The only issue is there's no guarantee that we will get community feedback. I mean, I don't necessarily believe we're going to get feedback from a whole bunch of other communities, because I think it's a fairly small group that truly pays attention to what goes out by us. So, I mean, I'm up for anything.
No, I agree. I like the community feedback. I mean, it's our city flag. If we can hear from our citizens of Nixa, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And the idea is if you guys are narrowing it down at least to the finalists, then we're going to avoid having a situation where we have a Bodie McBoatface option selected by the public if you guys are kind of pre-screening and selecting ones that you can all live with.
I mean, I do like A and B because C does the whole thing that you were talking about earlier where you have 2 white corners.
Yeah.
And then...
I agree. I think it's first
Yeah.
2 looks the best.
I think E is too busy. D, I don't know.
Well, again, we've already adopted pretty much the X, so it would have to be 1, 2, or 3 to have to go along with it somewhere.
I was telling Drew earlier, I really like the fact that the chevrons and the X look like the Callaway logo. Makes my golfer heart happy.
And there's not much difference between A and B, so if we narrow it down to A and B, I mean, it's not much of a
poll. Yeah.
Going down to
D.
D maybe. So simple.
I don't like D.
A, B, or D, or?
I mean, I like the idea with it on those two sides it represents between the Finley and the James. I like the story between, but for A, I mean, and that's also the same story for B. A looks more proportionate. So, I mean, out of these options, if we put out 3 of these options, I mean, it's kind of hard to put out even 3 options on this. It'd be more like 2. And it'd be A or B, and so.
I haven't designed and ordered many flags in my life. How does this work on it being on both sides? How does that play into it with the background being white?
Sure. So if you pick a design that's not symmetrical from side to side, so that's an issue. If we put text on a flag or a city seal, then you're not going to have symmetricality or whatever. So you'd actually have to do 2 pieces of cloth that you're creating and stitching them together to create every single flag. But if you select, that's the benefit of flag A design and B, both have this, and C. A, B, and C are all symmetrical so that they can be a single sheet. So basically you'd print, it soaks the ink all the way through on that flag, and you'll actually save money. It's a little bit cheaper because you're not having to do 2 pieces of material and stitch them together. You're having 1 piece of material. So it's a little bit simpler design, and it's actually another best practice is to have your flag be symmetrical in a way that you're not having to do 2-sided.
So A through D accomplishes that.
I don't like D at all. D looks like you should have like a business card, you should have something written up
It
there.
looks like one of those magnifying glass things.
Yeah. Well, A and B at least gives you the option of having the wider blue on the sides or the narrower blue with the bigger X, which is what B has as opposed to A.
Sorry, one more time?
A has the wider blue
Yes.
sides and the smaller X. B has the smaller blue sides and the larger X.
Yes.
So it gives you an option between those 2. See not crazy about the one big river going through it. Make a choice. I got things to do.
Yeah, if we put it out to vote A or B, that would be my recommendation.
I agree.
I agree with that.
That's what I'm saying, if we put it out to a vote with A and B, though, there's not that
Not
much
much
difference between the 2
difference.
that does it really need to go out, if that's what we're gonna narrow it down to those 2 options. I mean, I'm definitely for the public feedback, but if those are the 2
Yeah.
best options we come up with, then do we really need the feedback off of those 2?
Do you want to just pick one? Or do you want to do A, B, C for,
A, B,
what do we
have
need
like
for
3
the
options.
the options then?
What would be the 3rd option?
Right,
C.
what would be the 3rd option? That's what I'm asking.
That's what I'm asking.
I mean,
B is not an option.
I'm picking the first one. I like the first one the best, but
I do too. I like option A as well.
Well, I like option B, so.
Option
But I would
B-
go with whatever.
Option B is not as symmetrical and proportionate. That's the reason why I like option A better.
These young lads in the back of the room and see what they think.
yeah.
I just like the bigger X, I guess. And our rivers aren't that big, so.
That's true.
It's symbolism.
They are large creeks, basically. Either one
Yeah.
works.
You know, like the flag of Colorado, the mountains are not, that's not the only 2 mountains in Colorado, right? It's a symbology, it doesn't have to be
They have
exact.
desert, too.
Well, Scout, you got any input back there?
I think you should open it up to the public about it, just to involve the community a little bit more.
There you go, guys.
So what options should we give them?
Personally, I like A, B, and C, just to change it up a little bit, with more feedback. You could possibly open up to the schools about it, or do voting at the library, or something like that.
I plan to do, if we do option 2 or 3, what I plan to do for the public voting is create a SurveyMonkey poll that we can link to in our monthly newsletter, post it on, a link to it on all of our social media channels and on the city website, and leave that open for probably 2 weeks at a minimum. And then what we'll do is we'll try to get some press coverage of it as well. Let the media know about it. I think we would probably get some media interest. In fact, just having this on the agenda tonight, we got some media interest today. There's some reporters that want to talk to me tomorrow about this. And we can probably try to drive some public voting on those things. Yeah.
May I make a bigger remark?
Yeah.
This is a...
I'll need you to state your name.
My name is John Guerra. I live at 697 North Fox Hill. I'll be very brief, Mayor and Council. I think it's right to say community involvement is important. We have a new mayor, a new brand, a new identity. The power of that is worth the financing. I don't know how much it's going to cost to do all this rebranding, but if there's value in community engagement, that's really important. So I think that feedback was really good. Looking back 5 years from now, are we going to say, I was there the night the city council told me what my identity for the city was? Or I was there 5 years ago when us collectively as a city decided on a new identity?
Yeah. Thank you. Very valid point. So it looks like option 2.
Yeah,
When's
clearly
that?
option 2.
Which flags do you want me to put in the poll?
So when you put the poll out there, will you put the information like you have here about what it represents?
The
and
meanings.
Yeah.
The meanings, and then,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can't put a thing out there to sway what it is, like when you put resembles a belt buckle.
What I'll do is I'll write up the positive version of each explanation of, like, if this was adopted, here's what we would say is the meaning and symbology of each design, and then let the public select. And I won't put negative pointers on any of those. I'll just say, if you were to adopt this, here's what we would say about it. If you were to adopt this, here's what we would say about it.
Going back to her comment, is it not possible to reach out to the schools and say, hey, in your classes, have a poll on these? That not doable?
I can certainly contact the schools and let them know that the poll is out there and that they're just as welcome as everybody else to vote on it.
Yeah.
I would be kind of interested to see one of the non-conforming, to see if maybe our city believes that's what a flag should look like instead of what the pros say. If there was one out there that somebody could kind of deal with. I like the one with the building above. I don't think I like the flag. I just wanted to see if the city is more like, we would like the more traditional looking flag over what, whoever the pros are, kind of stuff, if that makes sense. I can tell you what flag I like, but again, the whole point of this is to get the city behind it.
Yep. Right. I mean,
You could technically put all of them.
you could put them all up there.
The all white one's one I don't
like the all white one.
I think that the more choices you give, the more you dilute the ability and of the public to decide, and to be definitive in their decision. So I think that's why my recommendation was to try to narrow it down to 3.
I mean, I would have I feel like putting A and B both on there.
I think it deletes that.
Is a waste.
I think we should do A. If I have a say in this, I'd say A, D, and if you want to go with a non-conforming one, then I would probably do F. Those would be if we're going to go that route, that's how I would look at that.
Yeah, I agree. I concur with that.
I mean, A and B, I think, are too similar. I mean, I know some people on the council like B better than A, but I mean, I think the uniformity of A is how I look at that.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. Would you guys be satisfied with a choice between A, D, and F?
Do you need?
Can you pull them up? Can you show them?
Just scroll back up through.
Oh, there's
That's F.
Oh, there's F right there.
Blue on top.
That's F.
Not E, because it looks like a flag of
There's
surrender.
D,
And A.
and then
C, B, and that's A.
Scroll through them one more time, a little slower this time.
A.
Or faster, it's whatever.
And then,
Huh?
I'm not sure how I feel about D, because like you said earlier, it clears up the ocean this time, and we don't really have ocean here, so.
I see that.
No.
It looks like a business card. There's definitely enough variety in the choices.
A, C, and F.
A, C, and F.
A,
How do you
C,
feel
and
about
F.
A, C, and F?
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay with that. The only thing I was going against is how you said when if it lays, when it's not blowing in the wind, you have, it could look like a surrender flag.
Oh, which one are you talking about?
On C.
C?
Yeah, you could have that problem. You could.
I wonder if you'll see the blue on it or not.
I think the blue line would probably fall on that, though.
You'll probably see it.
I think so. I think I'd be good with A, C, and, what'd you say, F?
A, C, and
Yeah, I'd be all right with that.
Yes.
That'd be interesting, following Scott's lead. We'll go with A.
I think that's good feedback.
I also really like the story that you presented about A, the two rivers, and
Yep.
that explanation goes a long way.
Right.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Easy on the compliments, please.
My head already can't fit through the door.
Okay,
Good
so
with
I guess
that.
the direction is to go with option 2, and we're gonna do A, C, and F as the 3 choices. Is that correct?
Yes.
Believe so.
Great.
Do we
Thank
need
you.
to- Do we need to do a motion or anything?
We'll put the
No.
pull out
No.
here in the next
Okay.
couple weeks, and we'll get the word out.
And thank you guys very much.
Thanks for your
See,
information.
this is why it's important you come to a council meeting.
And stay till the end.
They're the future, so that's why I'm listening to them.
I think they're trying to earn some merit badges.
You weren't? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, perfect. Anything else from council? Anything else from staff?
Just a reminder, the next council meeting was rescheduled to September 7th at 7 PM.
Yep.
Which is a Thursday,
It's
correct?
a
It's a week from
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday, September 7th.
Cool beans.
Yes.
If you're going to have issues making that, please let me know in advance. All right.
Say that a little louder for people.
Nixa's
Yeah.
second annual multicultural festival is going to be held September 23rd
Sweet.
from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Rotary Park. I've got 3 performances booked for sure, working on 2 more. I have 4 food trucks confirmed, working on a couple more. And then we've got vendors coming in. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
And we need lots of volunteers if you'd like to help out.
We will need volunteers. I need parking attendants. I need bounce house
I
attendants.
thought you were going to say bouncers.
We're going to have the bouncers.
What are we expecting?
Well, we might.
Okay. All right, well, if there is nothing else, Mr. Peterson?
I move the city council go into closed session under section 610-021-1 of RSMO so that city council may discuss legal actions, causes of action, and confidential and privileged communications with their attorney. I also move that this closed session, records related thereto, and any votes taken by the council during this session shall be closed under section 610-021 of RSMO, and that the city council shall stand adjourned after the closed session.
Second.
First by Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. Lucas. Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
Zern Vest.
Yes.
Kelly Morris.
Yes.
Matt Ogden.
Yes.
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.